Hello and welcome to Business Today. I am Siddharth Zarabi, and with me here at the Davos Brainstorm Studio in Davos is Rishi Khosla, the co-founder and CEO of OakNorth UK. We also have Saugata Saha, President, S&P Global Market Intelligence and Chief Enterprise Data Officer at the company. Welcome, Rishi. Welcome, Saugata. The rise of the intelligent age. And I wonder whether that theme is something that you agree with, given the fact that the discussion seems to be centered around AI being everywhere, Saugata.
Siddharth, thanks for having me here. Look, the rise of the intelligence age is here, right? And what we are seeing in business and our information is our business is largely data and information. It's everywhere. It's less hype, it's more reality. And over the next 5 to 10 years, what you will see is a seismic shift in how we interact with not just data and information around us, but literally everything. AI will impact pretty much every aspect of life over the next 5 to 10 years.
Okay. Rishi, world of investing, world of finance, and the world of AI, how are they coming together?
So I'll just pick up on what was just said as well. I think that AI is going to absolutely affect every aspect of every industry. It's just a question of how much. I do think today we're pretty heavy on the hype cycle based on where technology is. If you think about 2025, I think 2025 will be the year of agents, right? And agentic AI. And when we think about finance and AI, it's about bringing agents and agentic AI into finance and determining which applications actually you can lean into heavier. Things like customer service, etc., areas which have just been played through already. I mean, almost started with RPA and then onwards. And if you look at the potential with the technology which exists today, you've obviously got to still have a human in the loop, especially in regulated industries, right? But with a human in the loop, you can both deliver much better customer experience through speed and specificity and also efficiency for an organization. So I think that AI and finance are absolutely come together. It's a question of just how fast is acceleration going to be from here.
How fast will the acceleration be? Because over the last year itself, we have seen so much happen. Some of the most popular models that we interact with have already the fourth version and more perhaps coming very soon.
Look, so that the acceleration is going to happen quite rapidly. We in S&P Global got into the AI race back in 2018 when we acquired a company called Kensho Technologies. And since then, if you look at the growth that's happened in how we apply AI, it's just exponential, right? And you'll continue to see that happen. In just the last 1 year, we've launched 15 new products which leverage AI. And the best use cases of AI are where the customer doesn't notice it's AI, right? From the customer's point of view, they're getting the same service, but we are leveraging AI to either deliver that same service at a much lower cost, or in some cases deliver services which would not be possible without leveraging AI. And we can talk about many such examples, but that's essentially how you're going to see AI in the workplace or even in people's day-to-day lives, where it becomes common fabric of how people interact with information, interact with each other.
Rishi, I want you to speak about the Indian context. Over the last several years, the startup boom in India, I mean, it's grabbed headlines. We've also seen certain sectors, touch base with reality, as we say. But in the AI space, do you think there's enough action happening in terms of product-led innovation in India? Or is it still a gap that needs to be addressed somehow?
So I think exactly like you say, the proliferation of new startups, but also funding of those businesses has been immense. And like you said, after any sort of massive boom, there's always a correction period. And we've sort of seen that play through. I think to your question in terms of product-led AI companies out of India, at least which have registered on a global scale, I would say I have not experienced or aware of businesses which have registered on a global scale. I'm clearly aware of businesses which are operating on a domestic basis today. I'm aware of businesses which are either foundational businesses or Gen AI software businesses, which fundamentally have a large engineering pool of really their core thought leadership situated in India. right? So is that actually developing a product company? It is developing a product company. Is that developing a homegrown Indian product company? Not necessarily. But again, I still believe in the world is flat in certain areas. I know the world isn't necessarily holding to that theory. But on that basis, there is still incredible talent, engineering, mathematical talent, which sits in India, which is actually feeding into today's AI product businesses.
Sure, in terms of the platform shift that's underway, part one of the question, do you agree that platform shifts, just as we saw with the beginning of the internet, and that took several years to pan out, is it that similar level? And second, the hype around valuations, at what point will we see some sort of reality setting in? When will the reality check happen?
I'll start with the second part of your question, Siddharth. Look, we go through these cycles. The global economy, there's always, as Rishi said, there's a hype cycle. You go through it, and eventually things correct. People find out the right value of a new technology, of a new capability, and the market settles. But going back to the first part of your question, which is kind of related, if you go back to 1998, 99, and you think about the internet, there were a lot of people who looked at it and said, this is a website, this is just a marketing tool, right? This won't change the world. A lot of people who looked at it and said, this will completely decimate industries and change the world. Nobody knew how exactly back then. But people who thought this is a revolutionary new technology, the internet in 1999, were actually right. What happened over the next 10, 15, 20 years, combination of internet, mobile telephony, etc., dramatically, rapidly changed industries. My perspective is you'll see the same with AI, and it's coming. And you talked about platforms. This is essentially going to be a platform. And this will have pretty significant implications on especially markets like India, where there's a large growing knowledge worker set, and AI likely won't displace workers completely, but what it will do is, a worker without AI will get displaced by a worker who's leveraging AI. That is almost certainly going to happen. And I think it's on us to make sure that as business leaders, we can make sure that that transition is as least disruptive and as productive, and we can get the most out of that transition.
Over 3 decades ago, when the first sort of internet pings were happening in India, our telephone infrastructure was not the best. But today, India has one of the best digital public infrastructure networks. And if you see by volume, the level of transactions is the largest in the world. And you have pretty much all elements of a digital-led sort of transaction capability, government, private sector, all of that in place. Will that help India leverage this emerging, technology of AI? Will it help it better?
So I think that the infrastructure which India has today is absolutely phenomenal in terms of the identity cards back through to having pure ability to have traceability back to individuals, right? And therefore that security for individuals, having the UPI in terms of payments, right? That whole payment infrastructure. These are things which just other countries are nowhere near today. And given that, and if you think about digitization, if you think about what AI requires good digital infrastructure, good data, right? Good data with high integrity, right? And given that core infrastructure which India has, I think it's in a phenomenal place to actually accelerate beyond. And like you said, it's sort of when you go back to the advent of the internet, the infrastructure wasn't there, right? But the investments have leapfrogged India where it is. And I know, at least in conversations that I have in the UK and in other markets, India often gets brought up as an example by policymakers about actually what could be possible if they had.
Oh, absolutely. As we wind down the conversation, I want both of you to reflect on what's your sense about the need for a global standard. There are demands for regulation, something work around ethics when it comes to AI. The internet grew because it wasn't regulated in the conventional sense, really. What kind of approach would both of you individually want AI regulation and governance to take?
So firstly, for the effective growth and adoption of AI, some form of regulation, generally speaking, will be good. AI as a technology is very global in nature, so it's going to be hard to have regulation that everybody can agree on across the globe and adopt. But there's, broadly speaking, three or four categories where regulation will help. One is, of course, the ethical use of AI, right? How do you make sure that you're using it in a way that is productive for society? Second, I would say around how IP gets treated in the use of AI models. All of these AI models are very IP hungry, and how IP gets protected is important because IP is very mobile. The internet's changed our thinking around IP, and that's going to be very, very important. The third, I would say, is how energy consumption gets treated in with AI. AI obviously is also very energy hungry, other than being IP hungry, and having sensible regulations around that will be helpful. And then the last, I would say, in how AI and humans interact and how AI is used to supplement the capabilities and power and unleash human imagination is going to be important, as opposed to thinking about AI in a way that it's less productive to human enterprise for it. And having good, robust regulations, sensible, meaningful regulation around those four areas will help the growth of AI in creating prosperous societies.
Rishi?
So I think that was a very comprehensive response. I mean, I'll just pull one string and add one other point. On the ethical use, I think the safety aspect is something which we as humankind should actually be very sort of on top of and concerned about, because making sure that it is used in a safe manner is just so important, and also bias within that, right, to make sure that it doesn't inadvertently impact certain individuals or citizens, right? So I think that's on one side. On the other side, I would say regulations already playing through when you're in a regulated business and you look at the way financial regulators are thinking about AI in different markets, because they're having to actually think about it, that you're already having a patchwork develop. And as a business which wants to operate across geographies, that patchwork becomes incredibly painful. So the need for actually more international cooperation around these things from the get-go versus the way that a lot of regulation has come about, which is on each island and then trying to have some cooperation on top, flipping that around the other way would make a lot of sense here.
Absolutely. And viewers, it's very clear that a lot of work needs to go in, because with every new technology, there's a cycle that is followed, and perhaps we are just at the beginning of this cycle, and lots more will come out. But clearly, some sort of framework and architecture is very, very essential. Saugata and Rishi, thank you very much for your time with us here today on this conversation. We'll continue our back-to-back live coverage from Davos, slipping into a short break. Back with you in just some time from now. Bye-bye.